Hey everybody, Console Collector here. Today we're going to take a look at my top 10 most expensive games according to Gameye. Gameye, in my opinion, is the best app for game collectors. It covers games, controllers and accessories, consoles, amiibo, and even print media. I love this app so much, I've used other apps in the past, and hands down Gameye is the best. I thought it'd be kind of fun to go through the app and see what my top 10 most expensive games are, and that's what we're going to do in today's video. Coming in at number 10, we have a very special version of Pokemon Coliseum for the Nintendo GameCube. This is the Jirachi bonus disc set. Now this is a set that comes with both Pokemon Coliseum and the Jirachi bonus disc all in one. This game on Gameye ranks at $1,010 Canadian. That's a pretty expensive GameCube game. The more common way to find this set is separate actually, where you have Pokemon Coliseum on its own and then the Jirachi bonus disc on its own as well. But this is the really rare 2-pack that has both all in one. It has this little logo on the cover, and that's how you know the difference. That's not a sticker, that's actually printed on the cover art. Pokemon Coliseum is basically what Pokemon Stadium was on the N64. In Coliseum, you can connect your GBA games to your GameCube, and you can use your Pokemon from your GBA games on your TV through the GameCube in Pokemon Coliseum. I know I had a ton of fun with Pokemon Coliseum back in the day because we didn't have these really cool 3D visuals of our Pokemon. Not like today where every game has got 3D Pokemon. So yeah, something like this I don't think could exist in today's era of gaming because we already have 3D graphics. But it definitely worked back in the day with Stadium and of course Pokemon Coliseum. Pokemon Coliseum actually had a single-player story mode as well. We got to play through a little mini story. Not very long, but it was cool that they actually had that. This is the first time I personally ever played a 3D Pokemon game inside of a Pokemon world. Before this point, the best we got was Pokemon Stadium, like I said, or Stadium 2, or even Pokemon Snap. But this was actually a semi-traditional Pokemon game in 3D, and that was really awesome. It was so well received that they actually released a full story mode called Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness on the GameCube, which was a full-on 3D Pokemon adventure. The thing about Pokemon Coliseum story mode though is it wasn't a traditional Pokemon game. You had to basically catch these shadow Pokemon. Yeah, I don't want to have any spoilers here, but it's kind of a unique concept, but it was never a full-fledged Pokemon RPG like we know and love. So quick, we'll talk about the Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc. On that bonus disc, it came with a Pokemon Coliseum preview, as well as a trailer for the new upcoming Pokemon Jirachi Wishmaker movie, and then a special mode where you could transfer a Jirachi to your 3rd gen Pokemon GBA cartridges. It's really awesome that you could still transfer this Jirachi to a 3rd gen Pokemon cartridge even to today. I think that's why this Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc is so rare and sought after, because it's a legit way to get Jirachi onto your GBA carts. The way to connect everything together is a little bit convoluted. You had to have a GameCube, you had to have Pokemon Coliseum or the bonus disc, you had to have the GameCube to GBA controller adapter, and then you also needed, of course, a working Game Boy Advance, and then you needed your Game Boy Advance game cartridge. Definitely a bit of a money pit to get all this working together. That's how Nintendo worked back then, but it worked on me because when I was younger, I had all this stuff. I had Coliseum, I had the bonus disc, I had the GBA, I had the GameCube obviously, and the game. And I played a lot of Coliseum just like I used to play Pokemon Stadium. Coming in at number 9, we have my complete in-box copy of Snow Brothers for the NES. And it's currently sitting at $1,081 Canadian. Longtime fans of the channel know how much Snow Brothers on the NES means to me. It's one of my childhood games that I played a lot with my mother, and I have great memories of playing this game with her when I was a kid. Back then, it was just the snowman game to me. I was just a young kid and we played it, and I never would have guessed that this would be one of the most expensive games in my collection when I grew up. Yeah, it's crazy how much this game that I loved as a kid is worth so much money today. I'm very lucky because as I grew up over the years, my mom did trade in some of the games, or even when I had them, I'd trade them up to the newest console, but Snow Brothers is a game that we always kept. And my mom got it from a flea market when we were kids, so we had the NES cartridge itself, we had the little dust cover sleeve, and we had the manual. Never had the box. We got it used at the flea market, so I never had the box. However, a few years ago, I actually got the box from a friend of mine, and he gave me a great deal on it, knowing that it was one of my favorite games of all time, how much that game meant to me, and yes, now I do have it complete in box in my collection. I've talked about Snow Brothers so much on this channel, there's not much else I can say about it. It's a really fun co-op game. You just do different stages up to level 50. And yeah, it's just a pick up and play kind of fun game that I really appreciate and enjoy. and it happens to be the 9th most expensive game in my video game collection. Next up, we have my complete in-box copy of Pocky and Rocky 2 for the Super Nintendo. It's coming in at $1,108 Canadian. This is an incredibly rare game for the Super Nintendo. I really love the original Pocky and Rocky number 1. It's pretty rare itself, but number 2 is so rare it's crazy. I used to rent Pocky and Rocky 1 from a local video store when I was a kid, and I had no idea there was a sequel. That's how rare it is. Never even saw it, never heard of it, nothing. I only played the original back in the day. When I found out that Pocky and Rocky 2 had a sequel, I was blown away. I went my whole life not knowing it had a sequel, so when I found that out, I knew I had to get a copy. And years ago, someone posted a complete box copy on a video game group I was a part of. We ended up talking and making a really good deal on it, and I thought it was expensive back then, but I can't believe how expensive it is today. Real quick, I want to talk about Pocky and Rocky 2. I actually beat it for the first time this year. Yeah, it took me many years to get through it. It's an incredibly difficult game, but I got through it. It's one of those rare cases in games where it's rare, it's good, and it's hard, but it's still fun. It's pretty much a run and gun, but with a top-down view. It's actually really unique and a lot of fun. It's one of those games you just get beat and beat and beat, but you just want to keep playing because you're having so much fun. I was really happy that Pocky and Rocky got a remake on the Switch because today's generation can now experience what a fun game this is. Coming in at number 7 is my complete box copy of Disney Sports Basketball for the Nintendo GameCube. Its current price at the time of this video is $1,443, and that makes me absolutely sick. You know why? Because this game is terrible, it's not a great game, it sucks, and it used to be a filler title. I used to pick this game up from like $20 to $40, and I've had so many copies over the years. Why is this garbage game a $1,400 game? I have no idea. It's not even the rarest GameCube game, but it's so expensive. I think this is a prime example of market manipulation because this used to be such a cheap game. Anyway, I should move on. It's a basketball game with Disney characters. It's not fun at all. You know what a fun basketball game is? It's kind of quirky. How about Looney Tunes B-Ball on the Super Nintendo? Or even Space Jam on the Sega Saturn or the PS1. Those are good, quirky basketball games. Not Disney Sports Basketball. It really is terrible. I tried to give it a good chance, and it's just not fun. It's way too difficult, and the shooting is just ridiculous. Like, it's not a good game in my opinion, and I don't think it's worth $20. Never mind $1,400. I normally don't like to talk bad about games in my collection, but because I have the full GameCube set, I had to get this game. And I'm being honest, it's a bad game, and you should never buy this unless you're like me and going for a full GameCube set. There's no reason to own this game, and it's just blows my mind that this ridiculously horrible game is the 7th most expensive game in my game collection according to Gameye. Coming at number 6 is Zelda's Adventure for the CDI. Its current price is $1,573 Canadian. Wow. This is definitely the most expensive Zelda game I have in my collection, and possibly one of the most expensive Zelda games out there. But funny enough, it's one of the worst Zelda games out there as well. This is a prime example of a bad game that didn't sell well, that is rare and expensive, not because it's good. Something I've learned over the years about expensive games is there's a couple different reasons why they're expensive. First reason is it had a low print run. Second reason is it's a really good game and everybody wants it. And third reason, it's a horrible game that didn't sell well. Anyway, back to Zelda's Adventure. It's a Zelda game on the CDI. You all know the story about how Nintendo basically screwed over Sony and released a few of their Nintendo IPs on the CDI. The CDI console did not sell well, so I guess you can consider yourself lucky, because Zelda's Adventure, you're not missing much with it. Honestly, if it didn't say Zelda's Adventure on the cover, I wouldn't even know it's a Zelda game. It's that much different than an actual Zelda game. This game has subpar visuals, has terrible voice acting. It's one of those games that you don't know what the heck you're going to do. I do have to admit it resembles the top-down view of the original Zelda on the NES, but way just more boring. And yeah, how can it be more boring compared to 8-bit? It just is. Like, you look at the visuals of it, it just looks like boring natureness. It's just so bland. The controls really suck on it as well, and every screen transition on it is a pause. Like, you play and it stops the game. Music, everything, it just stops. And then it resumes. I know it's the early CD technology, but it's just like a real break in the whole game. It's trying to like be immersive, but it's far from that. Like I said before, you just don't know what to do in this game. I gave it an honest play, and I just can't figure out what to do. You talk to people, and there's just no real indication what to do. It's not a fun Zelda game. I don't like it, but it is extremely expensive and rare in my game collection. I feel so bad for kids back in the day, and this was their first Zelda experience, because they will never understand why people love Zelda so much to this day if this is the one that they played. Coming at number 5 is my box copy of Mega Man 5 on the original Game Boy. Gameye currently has it priced at $1,718 Canadian. That is a crazy expensive Mega Man game. I find it interesting that a game like Mega Man is so expensive and rare in today's market. Over $1,000 for a Mega Man game, that's pretty crazy. I'm a huge fan of the 8-bit Mega Man games, and after I got all 6 of the original NES Mega Man games complete in box, I knew I had to get the Game Boy ones. And that was a good collecting goal of mine for a long time, getting all 5 of the Mega Man games complete in box on the original Game Boy. I think at this point, the 8-bit Mega Man games were kind of getting stale for most people, and they were focusing on the X series. Plus, this was a really late release on the Game Boy, so that all contributes to why it's so expensive in today's market. The Game Boy games are very similar to the NES, just in black and white, and not as fun in my opinion, less bosses, but hey, they're still pretty decent. I'm actually really shocked that Mega Man 5 is worth so much, and it's the 5th most expensive game according to Gameye in my collection. Coming at number 4 is my box copy of Spud's Adventure on the original Game Boy. It's currently priced at $2,076 Canadian. I will never forget how I got my copy of Spud's Adventure. I was actually just hanging out in the game room with my wife, and I was playing Mario 64, and she was on her phone looking on Facebook Marketplace for deals. Back then, she was always just scouring Facebook Marketplace, looking for the deals for me, because she was just bored and hanging out, and she liked buying games and helping me build the collection. So there I was, flying around in the desert level, trying to get into the pyramid, and she says, hey, there's this kind of crazy handheld lot here. It's got a bunch of GBA, Game Boy, and some DS games in it. Do you notice anything worth getting here? The guy wants $400 for all of it. So I pause the game, and I take a quick look, and holy cow, I saw Spud's in there. Yep, Spud's Adventure was just sitting there in the pictures. And I dropped the controller, and I said, hey, babe, Spud's Adventure's in there. That's one of the rarest and most expensive Game Boy games. And she's like, it's a potato game. I'm like, yeah, it's super rare. Message this guy. So she messaged him, and we made time to meet up. And sure enough, we got there. First thing I went for was that Spud's, and I actually brought a screwdriver. I opened it up, and it was a legit copy, 100% real. I couldn't believe we got a Spud's Adventure in the wild. And yes, we had to pay $400 for the lot, but by the time I ended up trading and selling off everything else, I got Spud's for free. I had to know where this guy got this, because that's not a game you just see anywhere. I asked him, where did you get this? And he said, oh, I had some tenants here, and they did a midnight move and left everything behind. I'm just trying to sell what I can to make up some of the rent and to cover some of the damage they left at the place. So yeah, they left, foolishly, this huge handheld lot of stuff, and I was able to get it with my wife for $400, and yeah, basically getting Spud's Adventure for free. Hands down, one of the best wild finds I ever got game collecting. Anyway, back to Spud's Adventure. It's a potato game. I'd call it kind of an action puzzle game, because there's some moves where you get to run around and attack enemies, but you also got to figure out puzzles. It's actually not a bad game, which is one of those cases where, yeah, it's rare and expensive, but it's definitely not bad. I noticed when I was playing it a while back that it actually has Princess Tomato in it, and that means it must be tied into the Princess Tomato game somehow. I personally am not up to date on my vegetable potato lore of Spud's Adventure. So yeah, Spud's Adventure is one rare and expensive Game Boy game, and it's the 4th most expensive game in my game collection. Coming at number 3 is Pokemon Box for the Nintendo GameCube. It's currently priced at $2,223 Canadian, complete in box. Pokemon Box has sparked some real debate over the years. I've had people come to me, being one of the OG GameCube collectors, and saying, Pokemon Box isn't part of the set, it's not a real game. Well, I hate to break it to you, it's an official Nintendo GameCube release that was sold to the public. It's not like it's the NWC cart for NES. It's not a special promotion cartridge or game. It's an official release, so in my opinion, it's part of the set. And unfortunately, it's one of the hardest GameCube games to get. And maybe that's why people don't want to include it, which is fine. You collect to whatever you want. And, it's your collection. But to me, it's part of the set. It's one of the 554 GameCube games. So with that out of the way, what is Pokemon Box? Well, it's pretty much Pokebank or Pokemon Home for the Gen 3 games. It was a giant PC or storage for your Pokemon. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It does have some special features, which I'll talk about here in a minute, but down to its core, it's a Pokemon storage. I can understand where people are coming from by saying it's not a real game, because there isn't really much of a game here. It's still just an official release. So what can you do with Pokemon Box aside from store Pokemon? You can actually set up these little tables and set up your Pokemon and do like little designs and setups. Like, it's pretty bare bones, but it can be done. You can change the backgrounds and the type of table and stuff like that. So there's something there you can do. The other great thing about it is you can actually use it to play your Gen 3 Pokemon games through your GameCube, essentially doing what the Game Boy player does, except without the Game Boy player, and you can only play the Gen 3 Pokemon games. So if you're a little cuckoo, you could get Pokemon Box to play your Gen 3 games through your GameCube on the TV, but the cheaper option is obviously getting the Game Boy player. And in case you're wondering, how do you play your Gen 3 Pokemon games through Pokemon Box? Well, same way you got to connect your GBA to Pokemon Coliseum, you got to do it here at Pokemon Box. You need that GameCube to GBA adapter that goes into the controller part on one end and into your GBA on the other end. And that's about all I can say about Pokemon Box on Nintendo GameCube, the third most expensive game in my game collection according to Gameye. Second most expensive game in my game collection according to Gameye is my complete in box copy of Earthbound for the Super Nintendo. It's currently priced at $2,249 Canadian. Earthbound is the poster child of how games become rare and expensive. It's a super awesome fun game. It didn't sell well back in the day, and now everybody wants it, and that's what drives the price up so high. There isn't much I can say about Earthbound that you probably don't already know. It's a really awesome, quirky, unique RPG for the Super Nintendo. It didn't get much love back in the day. A lot of people only found out about Earthbound through Smash Bros. And at least it's got some attention, because I personally used to rent Earthbound, same place where I'd rent other multiple games when I was a kid, and we'd rent it and have no idea what to do, and I actually really liked it. I thought it was funny and quirky, and I always remember seeing on top of the shelf the big box for Earthbound, and that's what intrigued me about it. I'm like, what is this game? We're going to rent it. And I actually only rented it one time because there was nothing else really to rent, and I fell in love with Earthbound back in the day. I remember wanting to own Earthbound because every time I'd go back and rent Earthbound, someone deleted my file, and it was super annoying. So I never beat it when I was a kid. I didn't even get that far because we only had it for a week rental and I had to return it. So that was annoying. And I remember going back when they were getting rid of Super Nintendo, moving into N64, and someone had already bought it. You snooze, you lose. I did not end up getting the used copy of Earthbound that I always rented. Earthbound actually happens to be one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah, definitely my top 10. It was just that great, and it left such a big impression on me when I was a kid. And I remember when I first played Smash for N64 with my friends, I saw Ness there. I'm like, hey, that's that kid from Earthbound, and none of them knew who that was. I was the only one that knew who Ness was, and it just blew me away that this character from some old game I played when I was younger was in Smash Bros. Like, total mind blown at that time. So anyway, like I said, there's not much I can say about Earthbound. You probably don't already know. It's a fun RPG for the Super Nintendo. It's got Ness, Paula, Jeff, and Pooh. Go play it. It's super fun and awesome. And it is the second most expensive game in my game collection according to Gameye. Alright, before we get to my number one most expensive game in my game collection according to Gameye, I just wanted to show a couple of games that actually really surprised me on their value. Now, these aren't the most expensive games in my game collection, obviously, but they're just games that I didn't realize had gone up so much in price, and really just shocked me when I was going through my Gameye app and saw the prices of these games. First one is my complete in box copy of Pokemon Puzzle Challenge on the Game Boy Color. I bought this game new with my own money, delivering flyers and delivering papers. Yeah, that's crazy that this game that I've had all these years is so expensive. Pokemon Puzzle Challenge for the Game Boy Color is currently sitting at $432 Canadian complete in box. Wow. Next up that blew me away for $795 Canadian is Snow Brothers for the original Game Boy complete in box. I got this game many years ago because I love the original Snow Bros and I wanted the Game Boy version. And yeah, I can't believe how much that game has gone up. This game didn't shock me as much as some of the others because it is a Pokemon game. I knew it was kind of expensive, but I didn't realize Pokemon Crystal was so much money. Pokemon Crystal is currently going for $783 complete in box according to Gameye. Holy smokes. I personally loved Pokemon Crystal when I was a kid. My mom never got me Pokemon Crystal because she said, you have Gold and Silver. What do you need this one for? It's the same game. I'm like, but it's a little different. Anyway, I ended up having to work and save up my money. And I bought this lime green Pokemon Crystal bundle with my own money. It was one of the first things I ever bought as a kid for myself. And I still have it today. And seeing how much Pokemon Crystal is complete in box makes me really wonder what my lime green Pokemon Crystal bundle would be worth today. Not that I'd ever sell it, but it'd be kind of cool just to know what it would be worth. Next is Home Improvement. It's currently going for $497 Canadian complete in box. Home Improvement on the Super Nintendo is a nearly $500 game. That's wild. I love Home Improvement, the TV show. I really enjoyed it when I was a kid, and I enjoyed it as an adult, and I knew that I had to get the game. I used to rent it when I was a kid, and I knew it was bad back then, but I didn't remember it, and playing it as an adult and owning it now, it's still bad, but because I was such a fan of the show, I knew I had to get the game, and I got the complete in box version many years ago when it was fairly cheap and nobody cared about it. But yeah, seeing it now that it's pretty much $500 complete, that's crazy for a Home Improvement game. And finally, the last one that really shocked me is the Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire combo pack for the 3DS. This big box complete set is going for $543 Canadian. Now, it does come with Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but all in one big box. I remember being so hyped for the Gen 3 remakes on 3DS, but I missed out on getting this big box. And many years ago, one went up for sale, and I made a deal with the guy and got it. And yeah, I can't believe it's over $500 now. That is just so crazy. It's not even that old of a Pokemon game. I'm just guessing not a lot of people bought it, and they're really good remakes, so it goes back to that whole supply and demand thing. Everybody wants it, but there's not enough copies to go around, and that makes it well over $500 now. Alright, we're done taking a look at those games that really shocked me and how much they've gone up over the years. Now we're going to take a look at my number one most expensive game in my game collection according to Gameye. And the number one game is my boxed copy of Amazing Tater for the original Game Boy. It's coming in at an astounding $2,958 Canadian. And that's for a boxed version. I've never been able to find the manual, so nearly $3,000 for a cartridge and a box. That is crazy. Unfortunately, I don't have a crazy cool story on how I got Amazing Tater, unlike Spud's. This game, it just went up for sale in a Facebook game group that I was in, and I bought it. That's it. I remember I did get a good price for it, I believe, because I think I paid around $300 for it, and even at that time, it kind of was like, ugh, $300 for a Game Boy game? That's crazy, because at that time, nobody was collecting Game Boy. Absolutely nobody. So yeah, I got a good price for it back in the day. I'm just really shocked, like, in its current state, it's worth $3,000. That's what makes me really happy, knowing that I built this crazy awesome collection and I didn't spend like insane amounts of money. I got deals in lots of places, and most of these games in my game collection that are expensive I got through trading or buying lots, selling off the rest, and then basically getting the game for free. That's how I built most of my collection, is trading and doing deals. I really don't like just spending money outright if I don't have to. So anyway, about Amazing Tater, it's actually a really fun game. I love puzzle games, I'm a big fan of those, and Amazing Tater is a puzzle game. I played a lot of this game actually, and it really gets you thinking. You got to solve these different puzzles. They get really challenging at times. I like how you can just do a little soft reset the puzzle, because there's times where I pushed a block or made a mistake, and I'm like, oh no, and then I got to restart. So yeah, this game definitely gets you thinking. It's kind of a shame that it's so expensive and rare, because people that love puzzle games would really enjoy this game. I'd tell you to go out and buy it, but I don't think any of these games on this list are worth their current going prices. Like, no game should be worth over $1,000. Like, nobody should spend that on a game unless you're a hardcore collector. But if you want to play them, there's other means to play these games, especially easy to emulate games like Amazing Tater. I'm not promoting piracy, but I'm just saying, like, if I didn't get these games for the prices that I got them for now, I would never spend that kind of money for these games, ever. Out of these 10 expensive games, according to Gameye, in this video, the one that actually cost me the most money is Pokemon Box. I paid $350 for that right before the big boom of 2020, the COVID pricing hike. because I'd sold my previous GameCube set and I was trying to build up the new one, and at the time $350 was an okay price for a Pokemon box. And shortly after I finished the second GameCube set is when the prices really took off. So I'm really glad I was able to rebuild that GameCube set before the price hike, because yeah, I ended up only paying $350 for Pokemon box. But yeah, out of all these games you saw, Pokemon box is the one that cost me the most money out of pocket. Alright, so that's my top 10 most expensive games according to the Gameye app. I just want to give a shout out to Gameye because they made an amazing app and I really love it. And this video is not sponsored by them at all. This is just my honest opinion about Gameye as a collector, a console collector. And I really love the app. I love that I can track my controllers, my accessories, my print media, Nintendo powers, my amiibos. I can track all my games and consoles. It's just a really great app. And I highly recommend you give it a try. Even if you're a casual collector, it's just nice to have everything in one place and it has current prices. You can do all sorts of different cool things with the app. You can even have a little completion meter inside the app. You can say how you got it, leave notes. You can give condition grades on it. It just does so much. Even has a description of the game, what you paid for it, and what it's currently priced at. Just so many different great features of the Gameye app, and I highly recommend you check it out. Alright, with all that said, I'd love to know, what are your top 10 most expensive games in your collection? I always like to see who's got what in their collections, because every collection is diverse and unique. And yeah, I'd love to know, what are your top 10 most expensive games in your collection? Hey everybody, Console Collector Editor here. I'm editing this video, and the Gameye app has updated, and my top 10 most expensive games according to Gameye app has changed since I filmed this video. So I thought I'd just show you at the end here. This is what I mean about games always fluctuating in prices, because yeah, just in the short time from me filming to editing, the app has changed, and now the games you just saw aren't actually my top 10. This game Kuon for the PS2 actually shot up to the 8th place now. So yeah, a little bit mixed up. I'm not going to redo the whole video because of that. I just wanted to let you guys know that game prices are constantly going up and down, and that's how great the Gameye app is. It keeps things so current that even in that short time, things have changed on me. Alright, that's going to wrap up today's video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'd really appreciate it. You can follow me on social media. The information is on screen now and in the description below. I want to thank everybody for watching. I am the Console Collector, and until the next video, happy gaming.